Yes, what's happening, people? What's happening, folks? Um, welcome back. Welcome back to another post-game player ratings and match reaction. And this one is going to be a little bit more of a in focus player ratings. Match reaction. I mean, we covered the match um, on episode 93. If you listen to the episode that came out with me and Laurent, go check that out. It came out a little bit earlier. On our YouTube channel. Remember to like and subscribe and share and hype the channel. It really, really does help us. So if you guys can do that for us as well, that'll be fantastic. That'll be amazing. Thanks for being here for us and with us. And as we continue to provide more content. Um, but yeah, man, it's your boy CJ from the Gunners Corner. I am back. We are back with a post-game player ratings segment and match reaction segment. And again, like I said, this is going to be more of a player in focus as opposed to match reaction. And yeah, again, if you want the match reaction itself, check out episode 93. Me and Laurent did a brilliant sort of dissecting of the match and what we thought went wrong and where the holes are at the moment in the team as a collective. But as individuals, there's some things to talk about and maybe some uncomfortable conversations we have to have. Certainly around certain players, around certain positions. And yeah, I think it was a little bit telling yesterday from that regard, right? With regards to our um our players. Sorry, I had to take a little bit of a drink, a little bit of a sip there. It's quite hot in my condo at the moment. Um, yeah, so I don't know, man, and I want to hear from you guys. Doing a lot of open discussions with people and people that I watched the game with yesterday. Shout out Gathering Resto Bar. We were over there, had a good time, enjoying the game and enjoying the vibes, obviously until the final whistle. But yeah, with friends and with colleagues and people who were there, just discussing ongoing discussions about players and who didn't turn up for us and what went wrong. Um, it's just a bit of a shambles, man, a bit of a disappointment from certain players that you expect more from, you know? Um, yeah. And listen, it's gonna be one of those things that we're gonna have to live with. It's gonna have to be one of those things that we're gonna have to sit on for the next 2 weeks of the international break, to be honest with you. And I mean, how do we cope, right? It's we're gonna have to figure out what we need to do going forward. We're gonna have to figure out what the manager needs to do, um, because he's got work on his hands, right? He's got work on his hands because look, we can sit here and talk about, until we're blue in the face, we can talk about what the manager did wrong, um, and the decisions that he made or didn't make. Right. But at the end of the day, the players got to go out there on the pitch and perform as well, and they got to step up to the plate because a lot of them do the talking in the media about their expectations and about what they want to do for the fans, and it's all good and well saying the right things, and what you want for the club and what you want for the fans and all that stuff. But who's going to go out and deliver? Who's going to go out and put pen to paper, as they say, right? Metaphorically speaking. And what I mean by that is, the paper is the playing field. You as the players, you're the pen. Go out there and put your print and your mark on the game, on the paper, on the pitch you know. And again, the manager got things wrong, but now he's got to galvanize these players individually, and he's got to show his man management skills and get his arm around these guys and show them that we have to go again because there's a lot more to play for and to fight for. But how do you get the best out of these players when some of them are clearly not at their best at the moment? That's the concern that we have. And what is this going to do for individual players' confidence, a result like this against the team that you're going up against in the title race, a team that you have to play at the Etihad Stadium next month? And you sure as hell they'll be up for it. So how do we bounce back? That's our concern at the moment. But listen, we'll start talking about the players and we'll get to the ratings, okay? We might as well. Um, the first one is the big one, the big elephant in the room. Kepa in goal, ladies and gentlemen. Kepa in goal. I'm not going to criticize this too much and spend too much time talking about the decision to play him because I understood it. I said before the game, I'm not going to be one of those hindsight merchants and say, oh, Raya 100% should have played. I predicted Raya to play this and that. No, I think in my pre-match preview, I predicted that the manager is going to go with Kepa, and I didn't complain about it heavily at the time. Um, so I'm not going to sit here and say now that, oh, Arteta this, Arteta that. I knew we should have played Raya because whilst I said, he's the first choice, and that's probably what you should go with in a cup final that you've never won before. But again, his decision to play Kepa all this time, sorry, in the final is based on the fact that all this time he's been the cup keeper and got us to where we're at, and I guess Arteta wanted to repay the faith. And yeah, it just backfired. And I guess you have to say in the end that he did get it wrong. These are the decisions that you live and die with as a coach. But, just it didn't work out for us on the day. It really didn't. And yeah, it's a decision he got wrong in the end. A decision that he's gonna have to live with. But it's not terminal. In the sense that it's cost us a cup, yes, but again, we're in three other competitions. Sorry, I don't know what the hell just dropped. We're in three other competitions, right? Three other bigger competitions, some would say, in terms of the pecking order of the trophies that we can win. And so now, whilst the decision to play him was a bad one in the end when you have the benefit of the result, but now I think it's fair to say that if Arteta were to go into another cup final, right? We're still in the FA Cup if we get there, Champions League final, obviously the Premier League is still there. If Arteta plays Kepa now, in another cup final if we were to get to an FA Cup final. And it's not, I would argue maybe even the FA Cup semi-final if because that one if we get there goes to Wembley. If Arteta still sticks with Kepa and plays him in the latter stages of the FA Cup, Champions League, etc., then that decision is he would deserve a lot more criticism, I think, at that stage. At this stage, yes, he's going to get criticized for the decision. But I think, it wasn't collectively one of those decisions that like, everyone said ahead of time, yeah, you should play Raya. There was debates all week about who should play Kepa or Raya, Kepa or Raya. And now, again, obviously with the benefit of the result, right? The hindsight and all that, it looks like a bad decision. But yeah, going forward now, if he still plays Kepa in another one of those major competitions, if we get to a final, even a semi-final, um, you know, yes, you can bet I will be spending a lot more of my focus on Arteta and the decision to play him again because that would be absolutely criminal. You now know what's happened as a result of the game and how it went, and you can say via the first goal, Kepa let you down. Kepa, I guess, let himself down as well with the mistake. It's harsh to say, but that's football. Yeah, if you want to be loyal to him and say, give him the game to put your faith and trust in him, well, again, he let you down in this instance, and Kepa couldn't have any complaints now if he didn't play in another cup final for the rest of the season, if we were to get there. David Raya is clearly the better goalkeeper. Um, I think Kepa would even have to accept that this mistake partially cost us, right? And so I don't think he could expect to play in a FA Cup final, let's say, if we got there. He's clearly not our first choice goalkeeper. We get to another final, we're desperate to win trophies. You got to play your best keeper now. I think that room for sentiment and loyalty and all that is no longer as far as Kepa's concerned. But listen, the first mistake, the first goal, sorry, was off of his mistake. Um, Ball slips right through his hands. David Raya, we see him collect those crosses into the box all day, every day. Strong, firm hands. Um, he normally is we're comfortable and confident with Raya's ball handling when the ball is in the air. Um, and Kepa, in this instance, like I said, let us down. Ball goes through his hands, and there's O'Reilly just behind him to head the ball in. And it wasn't just that mistake that led to the goal, right? The instance where Kepa comes out with, I think it was with Doku, he's tussling with Doku. He comes out, doesn't get there. Um, and at this point, him and Doku are jostling, and he ends up getting booked Kepa because he's dragging Doku back a bit. Um, yeah, and I think at that point you're thinking, wow, he's fortunate maybe to get away with one because he comes rushing out of his goal and doesn't get there, doesn't get the clearance. The referee stopped the play. He could have, or some would argue the play could have continued through the referee. The referee could have kept the play going because Doku still had the ball. Kepa's all over the place at this point, but yeah, Kepa kind of maybe got away with one, got away with the booking, got a yellow card. Didn't we didn't concede in that instance, but that was prior to the first goal, and right, and again at that point you're thinking, things look a little bit shaky here. It looked a little bit rough. I'm not gonna lie. And I was starting to think, yeah, Kepa, he's struggling here. Didn't struggle too much in the first half, but in the second half, he was really starting to get exposed. Even I think Pep and Man City worked it out, right? When Kepa had the ball out at the back, when we were sort of playing around at the back and you play the ball back to the goalkeeper, there's a big difference when your defenders and whoever is playing the ball back to David Raya versus playing the ball back to a Kepa. When Kepa has the ball in this game, Man City players, they figured out late, especially in the second half, to sit off Kepa a bit, right? Because he knows Kepa doesn't have the same level of distribution and ball handling with the ball at his feet as a David Raya does, right? So you kind of sit off Kepa, let him play, or let him have the ball. And for a lot of times in the game, you saw Kepa sort of putting his foot on the ball, rolling his foot over the ball, trying to decide how we're going to play out, when we're going to play out, where we're going to play out. Um, again, Man City gave him that time on the ball because they weren't concerned with what he was going to do with it, right? They just said, yeah, you can have it because they didn't trust or expect that his distribution was going to be anything brilliant, like a David Raya, where you need to sort of close him down quickly. They let Kepa have the ball, and you can tell it just wasn't the same level of comfortability when Kepa's on the ball versus when David Raya's on the ball. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, there were signs that and of course that affected our style of play. It really, really did. Like the way we played changed because what David Raya does when he gets the ball at his feet and how he distributes out of the back is a big part of our identity. And when Kepa has it again, you just lose that bit of identity because the playing out of the back is just not the same. The distribution out of the back is just not the same. We don't flow the same. The patterns aren't the same. The level of comfortability is not the same, I think, from the players around Kepa as well. So it affected our whole play, to be honest with you. It was a big call to make, and he made that decision, Arteta. And yeah, we're sat here today talking about how it backfired, unfortunately. So for Kepa, his rating, again, you have to give him I think you'd have to give him a 3, to be honest with you. That's my rating for him. Ben White. I first like to say that Ben White was now recalled back into the England team. So congratulations to Ben White. There were a couple dropouts um due to injury and so on. And so Ben White was called up into the national team for England. It's first time I think since the last World Cup. So good for Ben White. Happy for him as he's an Arsenal player. So we got to support our guys going on international duty. Hopefully it's good for his confidence. Hopefully he can stay fit and not pick up any injuries and come back in one piece. But yeah, Benny Blanco came in for this one because Timber couldn't make the matchday squad due to injury. Of course, just our luck. Um, and you know what? He didn't get totally skinned, right? By Doku. Like Doku didn't he did decently well one-on-one. Like I said, it was more so the other side, right? The matchup with Nkapie and Semenyo, where Semenyo ruined Nkapie a couple times. Ben White didn't really get dealt with like that. Um, I thought, one-on-one defending Doku for the most part, Ben White was okay. It wasn't, we weren't too troubled down that side. Um, Obviously Ben White didn't have his, attacking output that he usually would have going forward. Um, because there just wasn't too much opportunity for us to get forward in this game to be able to cause that sort of problems. So unfortunately, Benny Blanco, like I said, we didn't see the offensive side of the game that we usually get from him. Um, yeah, but still obviously building up his match fitness because he hasn't gotten too many minutes so far this season. But again, I don't think Doku overly troubled him really, to be fair to him. It was just kind of a nothing game from him. The one moment where you could say was a highlight of his game was when he, took out Cherki for the showboating, right? If you guys remember famously in the second half, Cherki collects the ball and does a couple keep ups. And then afterwards, Ben White sort of lays into him and gets a yellow card. So I don't mind that. Um, I don't mind that at all. But for Ben White, I'm probably just going to give him a standard 5, to be honest with you. Saliba probably our best outfield player. This is a player that I felt really bad for on the day. I'm going to give, Saliba, like, just for the sake of what we do here with the ratings, I'm going to give him man of the match because he was the best of a bunch of players who were all, or for the most part, were underwhelming. Saliba, and I'm going to say Gabriel to a certain extent as well. They showed up. They did their job, I think, the best that they could. But Saliba, specifically referring to him, he was my best player on the day. Again, a player I feel bad for because you can tell he was hungry. You can tell he wanted trophies. He said he wants to stick around with Arsenal and signing new contracts because he wants to win trophies with Arsenal Football Club. That's his mantra. That's his goal. That's his remit and his duty. He said this publicly. And here's another cup final we've lost and another one that slipped away from him and from the team. And it wasn't because of Saliba why we lost this game. He did his job. Another game where Holland was pretty much out of the game and didn't have any impact on it because of the likes of what Saliba and Gabriel did to him. Pretty much kept him relatively quiet. Um, there's a couple. I think there was one time, especially in the second half, where Holland was slipped through, and at that point, he's kind of looking like he's going one-on-one with the keeper. But Saliba dealt with it well. Kept stood him up, was running back with him, running back towards zone goal. And when a striker's running at you, bearing down on your 18-yard box, and you're as a defender, you're backing up into your own box, and the striker's running at full speed, full momentum. It's such a difficult, thing to do as a defender to try and keep up with that and not get beat, But Saliba did well. He stood his ground, watched the ball as they'll tell you to do as a coach, and yeah, didn't let Holland beat him and nicked it away from him. In the last sort of not a last ditch tackle, but just as Holland was getting closer to bearing in on goal, Saliba was able to get a foot in and knock it away and tow it away from Holland. We just highlighted the all around good game that Saliba had. Dealt with everything in the box, didn't let Holland bully him, cleared his lines. Saliba. You can tell Holland actually in this game favored playing on Saliba on more than he did on Gabriella, but Saliba was more than comfortable dealing with Holland and yeah, just you could tell at the end of the game too, Saliba's face, he knows what this meant. He wanted this and feel bad. He didn't deserve to be on the losing side on the day. Um, I'm actually gonna give Saliba I'm gonna give him a 7. Um, I'm gonna give Saliba a 7.5 on the day. I thought he did his job. Maybe a 7. A 7 is better, in my opinion. 7. Gabrielle, I'll give Gabrielle a 6.5, again, just under Saliba. A couple times in the first half, I think he tried a couple clearances or a couple balls out that didn't go to anybody. Um, just gave the ball away one or two times when we were trying to play out to nobody. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, defensively, he did his thing. Tried to do the best he could. Again, nullified Holland. Holland wasn't a threat to our center backs and Gabriel's part of that. So yeah, but otherwise, I think what more could he do? He did have a couple of chances from set pieces. Put a header over the bar in the second half. Yeah, it was a game that didn't really, it wasn't Gabriel's kind of game in the sense that I don't think he got the chance that he wanted to on the offensive end. Like again, defensively, he did fine. Did fine, did more than enough to shut out Holland, which is you do your job as a center back if you keep Holland quiet. You know what I mean? But it was just the others around him too that let him down. I think Saliba was slightly better on the day, and Gabriel was just underneath, so I give him a 6.5. And part of the problem too is like when our defenders were getting the ball when we're playing out of the back, because we don't have an Eze or an Odegaard or that level of creative player who wants to get on the ball, we didn't have that player on the day, right? So our defenders get the ball and they're looking to give it to somebody, but Declan Rice and Zubimendi weren't really showing for it too much. Like they didn't show that they wanted the ball in those situations. What you needed in that game was somebody like an Odegaard or an Eze to give them the ball in midfield, and then we needed that link from defense to attack through our midfielder, through our creative attacking outlet who's comfortable on the ball, who can make things happen, and we didn't have that, right? Kai Havertz played more so as a second striker close to Gyökeres, so we had to kind of go long a lot, and it just didn't work for us. So yeah, that's something I felt bad for with regards to our defenders. Hincapié on the left side. Hincapié. Hincapié probably gets a 4. Yeah. Because if I give Benny Blanco a 5, Hincapié probably gets a 4. And that's simply because, he was troubled after the booking. And I would argue that he was harshly booked by the referee, very harshly booked, considering Bernardo Silva got away with murder, but what the hell else is new, right? Um, yeah, harsh on the boy Hincapié for the booking. But again, after that, he was troubled. A lot more threat went down Semenyo's side, and Semenyo got a lot of joy. against Hincapié there, and Gabriel had to bail him out a couple times. Yeah, it was very unfortunate. Because Hincapié, I think if he didn't get that booking, we might have seen him defend better. We might have seen him more comfortable and be the aggressor that he likes to be. But I think that yellow card troubled him, and for the rest of the game, he was impacted by that. He couldn't be the aggressor that he usually is. So it was a shame. And again, as a result, Semenyo took advantage of that. He really did. And I think Hincapié struggled. So four for Hincapié. Martin Zubimendi, um, five. Another one where, he wasn't really impactful. The game passed him by. He was there and thereabouts, but he didn't really, do anything for us in a positive light. Aside from the one pass that he slipped through to a certain Kai Havertz, who's left his lines, um, started bright, but yeah, I don't think Zubimendi did much in the game. And I think he gets a standard five for me. Not much more to say with him really. Again, he's just there, going through the motions in the game and didn't impact it either way. Got ran through. I think their midfield completely dealt with ours, and yeah, Zubimendi was a non-factor. Just five, and maybe that's being kind. Declan Rice, really disappointing. One of the talismanic figures in this team, one of the guys who speaks a lot in the media and says all the right things. But we didn't see him on the day. And again, I said this on the podcast with Laurent. If you want to be compared to the best midfielders in the world, some of the best midfielders to play the game, the likes of Steven Gerrard and Lampard, then these are the games, the cup finals where you're expected to step up and be the guy and be the man. You don't get too many chances in a cup final to do it over, right? Um, we needed you to show up for us in this one, and Declan Rice, yeah, again, he along with Vivendi, got outnumbered, got outrun, got out sk skilled, everything in midfield. Their midfield completely outclassed ours. And Declan Rice and Zubimendi were just not involved, couldn't get close to them. We didn't see him have the impact on the defensive end or the attacking end to help us get through this game. Declan Rice, I think, he did a lot of hard work and a lot of hard running because of the way City moved the ball and the numbers they got going forward. But yeah, I think it wasn't Decker's best day either, which is disappointing because you expect him as a big player to be that one of the main men, and it wasn't one of those for me and for him. So maybe yeah, standard five for him as well. You know what? No. Yeah, yeah. He was yeah, slightly better than Zubimendi, I would say. So I give him a five. Um, yeah, I give him a five. We forgot to mention as well, Zubimendi was actually sort of not at fault fully for the first goal. It was Kepa mainly, but when it went over Kepa's hands, when it slipped through his hands, Zubimendi was there with Nico Riley. Not Nico Riley obviously got there first and out muscled him and had quicker reactions to the ball. So um, yeah, I think that's why I keep Zubimendi's rating as a four and Decker's rating as a five. Big players, man. It's time for you guys to step up. If you're world class, if you're the main man, this is what we're looking for, and this is what we're looking you to looking at you to help do for us and get us over the line and be the one, be the legend that says that I won Arsenal these trophies and whatnot. But it wasn't to be on the day. Let's hope his story can still be written for the rest of the season. But Deckers gets a five. Um, Kai Havertz, poor, poor Havertz. I think he gets a three as well. I think I get Kepa a three, and I'll also give him a three. He was not in the game at all. He should have scored, and because he didn't score, I'm pissed. I'm fuming. At that point in the game, we should have been up 1-0. Um, we should have capitalized on that moment. He should have done better. Lifts it, but hits it right at um their keeper's chest, Setford's chest. I think he should have put it around him on the ground, just to Setford's right. If there was more of an angle, maybe he could have hit it earlier as well. But it just looked like when you look at it in slow motion and look where the ball ended up going, right to Setford in his chest. Like I said, it just wasn't a good enough effort. And you expect better from him in that situation. This is the guy who scored in a cup final for Chelsea, right? The Champions League. So, what are we doing here? Havertz, you're a big time player. We need more. We need more from you in that situation. And I'm not hearing the tired excuse because that was early on in the game. You know what I mean? You can't be fatigued at that point. There's just no excuse. And we've seen him miss big chances before. That's the problem. So yeah, and after that just wasn't in the game at all. Didn't impact it, nothing really from him. And I think he tired later on in the second half. By the time the subs came, they were too late. But yeah, Havertz was a non-factor in the game after that early chance. Three for him. Trossard, I don't know how he played as long as he did. I think he lasted the 90 minutes. It made no sense to me because he was horrible in this game. Um, yeah, another three. I could probably even give him lower than that, to be honest with you. Um, yeah, he just was he was poor. Didn't do anything. It could be lower than a three, man, honestly. But do I? How could I give him lower than Kepa because Kepa made the mistake. But no, I'll stick with a three for Trossard. It was poor, and I'm being very, very kind. Did he do anything? What did he do? He was just on the pitch, did nothing at all. There's not much more to talk about. He just showed up on the day, laced up his boots, and got on on the field, but did absolutely nothing. Should have got hooked earlier. Three for Trossard. Nothing. Not didn't help us at all. Um, Bukayo Saka. This is the main man. This is the guy that we look to as our talismanic figure. 300K a week contract. Poster boy of the club. Captain on the day. We said a lot about Saka last night, so again, go check out the episode if and when you get a chance. But listen, man. All I'm going to say here is there's certain conversations that need to be had. People have asked and talked about it so far this season in circles and in conversations. Is Saka overrated? Well, I think that conversation is now a genuine one, and that question is now a genuine one. Because a cup final, and he just was absolutely pocketed. Um, nothing, nothing from the game, from him. You look to him to be positive and to try like what you see from their wingers, right? Semenyo Doku, positive wingers looking to get onto the front foot, looking to obviously constantly take on the fullback, not give them a moment's rest. Saka doesn't do that enough, and he doesn't do it with enough conviction for me. It's passive. It lacks creativity, lacks invention, lacks ideas when I watch his game at the moment. And again, he looks like he's missing some pace. Again, he looks like he's low on confidence, running out of ideas. You even had your guy Ben White playing there beside you yesterday, and that partnership that we talk about, and we didn't see anything of that, and we didn't see anything from him specifically, and it was just a poor overall showing. Um, Defenders look like they know how to play him now. They read his moves or lack thereof. Every time he wants to cut inside, and it's quite I guess well obvious you would say. Um, about what he's going to do, how he's going to maneuver. He's not beating anyone with pace, really. He's not beating anyone with trickery or invention. Passes aren't even coming off for him. Shots aren't even coming off for him at the moment. It was really poor. And you rate him on the standard that he's better than the Trossards of the world, right? He's your best player. He's your, again, best player in attack, at least. World class compared to the likes of, Rodrigo and Vinny and these guys just last season. But this season, falling off a cliff, and we discussed why, and I've discussed why. Go check out episode 93, people, if you want to, get here the details of what's in my opinion, what's gone wrong with Saka, but very disappointing. We have the rest of the season for him to bounce back and be the one that writes the story for us in some of these other competitions, but for this one, it wasn't to be. Very disappointing once again. I don't remember the last time he had a really good game against Man City, and that's concerning. Um, but Kyle Saka, for how he lasted 90 minutes too, is beyond me. Um, I'm gonna have to put him on the same rating as the others, right? I don't want to put him lower, because again, I think the lowest rating on the day should be Kepa. Um, but I'm gonna can be consistent there and leave him on a three. And some of those guys I'm giving threes to, man. Him and Trossard, I'm being kind. Gyökeres, not much to say. Didn't get the service on the day. Tried. He definitely did try and work and to try and run the channels and try and be an outlet. A lot of times when we did clear the ball in transition, no one is up. Nobody's up there with him. It's him on his own, trying to feed off scraps, trying to run the channel, trying to work hard. And he did go on a couple decent runs, but ran into traffic in the end into their defenders. He didn't have enough support and overall just didn't have enough service on the day. So I think you gave him a four. There's nothing he can do. I felt a little bit bad for him at times too. Considering Havertz is supposed to be up there with him, it seemed like he was isolated a lot of the time, Gyökeres. So four, very disappointing that we didn't do more in an attacking sense overall, even to provide him some decent service. Um, No, those who came off the bench, substitutions came too late, way too late in my opinion. But when they did come, we did see the likes of a Martinelli came on the 82nd minute, laughing with Savinho while he's on the touchline waiting to come on. That's unacceptable in a final. When you're losing to your rivals, you're there laughing with your buddy from Brazil, who plays for the opposition team. That's just not acceptable. You know the cameras are on you. You know the Arsenal fans are going to be fuming with that. It's poor from Martinelli, but didn't do anything when he came on, really. Standard five, and I should probably mark him down because of that incident with Savinho. But whatever, standard five for Martinelli. Gabriel Jesus came on in the 82nd minute as well with Martinelli, hit the crossbar with a header. It was a good header. It was a good effort. Otherwise, not much going for him really. Didn't impact the game. Then standard five. Madueke came on in the 66th minute. Too little, too late for that substitution. Couple good runs, but didn't really do anything. Even sometimes when he tried to connect and link up passes with us and for us in the final third, lost the ball, gave the ball away. I think that's pretty much what he did when he came on, was just go on a couple of runs. So he was definitely more positive than Saka in the half an hour that he played. Um, but when he did go on those runs or did look to make a play or make a pass, did nothing with it. Either lost it or gave the ball away. So um, yeah, probably a standard five. And Calafiori, I'm gonna give him a six because he came on. Um, And at least, we looked more positive. Again, that's another too little, too late substitution. Probably should have come on around halftime to not only give us more attacking impetus and control, but to get Hincapié off the pitch, who was struggling against Semenyo. Um, but yeah, when Calafiori came on, he hit the post with a great effort, a good attempt, skinned the outside of the post. Um, and yeah, just all, as a whole, we just looked a little bit better when he was on the pitch. Um, but again, the substitution came too little, too late. And I'm going to give him a six for it. Um, once again, it's concerning. Our left back has one of the better chances of the game. Our left back is the only one trying to have a pop at goal. It's concerning. It's sad. Speaks to where we're at in our style of play and how we play at the moment. It's unfortunate and it's worrying. So long as we continue to not get over the line in these games and in games where trophies are on the line, it's concerning. I still have that concern. I'm not going to lie to you. Um, The manager, again, a lot of it falls on him. Obviously, he made the decision with Kepa in goal, so he's gonna have to live and die with that decision. That cost us in the end. Unfortunate, but that's what happens as a manager. Um, Substitutions that did come on, they came on way too late. Saka played 90 minutes when he shouldn't have. Trossard played 90, I think, as well when he shouldn't have. And yeah, the other substitutions came too late. We started making those substitutions after they scored their goals, when these substitutions probably should have been made either at halftime or, a lot earlier before the goals came about. When you could have sensed the danger between halftime and the sort of 60-minute mark when the goal came, that's when you should be sensing the danger early, the way the pattern of the game was going. That's when you should be making your subs. And we in the end, it was too little, too late. That falls on the manager. And just outclassed in the end by Pep Guardiola, once again, the master. So for Mikel Arteta, it's another cup final loss. It's another trophy we're not going to get. Mikel Arteta, you have to give him. For me, he gets a two on the day, and I'm just here to be honest and keep it honest. He partially cost us that one with his decision making or lack thereof. And again, just the negative football. It's a cup final. You can't be scared to win a cup final, right? There's no hiding place. You have to go out and grab it if you want to win it. You can't draw a cup final. You can't, defend your way to a cup final. At some point, you got to go out and get it. And we were too negative on the day. Didn't have enough of an outlet. Our game looked like it was focused more on trying to stop City as opposed to how we're going to beat City, and that's a problem. Um, Conversations to be had. Should Bukayo Saka be dropped now? Another game where he's getting 90 minutes when he shouldn't be. Manager's got to be brave to say, listen, you're not playing well at the moment. I'm not going to keep throwing you in the deep end. In fact, I'm going to take you out of the limelight. And we have the depth now, right? We have the Maduekes to come in, even a Max Dowman to come in and take some pressure off of Saka, give him a mental and physical break because he may need it. And we have a run in to contend with, so give him, a game or two off. We have Southampton right after the international break. Um, I bet that he won't play in that one, and he shouldn't. And then questions to be asked afterwards, depending on how Madueke or whoever steps in for him performs, should Saka even start the next one, which I think will be the Champions League first leg against Sporting. Does Saka hold bench for that one as well? So these are the decisions that managers gonna have to make now, right? And the big calls for the likes of Saka to be dropped because what we're seeing from him at the moment just isn't good enough, and he needs to know that his place is not guaranteed in the team when he's not playing well. So overall, ladies and gentlemen, poor showing from us on the day. I did try and go a little bit more in depth on the player focus there, and with the player ratings. We will have better days ahead. We will bounce back. We're gonna have to because we have a lot more to play for this season. So listen, stick with us and stick by the team. More games, therefore more content and more to discuss and talk about. This one obviously didn't go our way, but we will be back and we'll be there for the next one. Okay, so listen, um, hit like, hit subscribe, hype, share, and be there for us. It really, really does help the channel out if you guys subscribe to us and continue to encourage the content. We really do appreciate it. Listen, leave your comments on what you guys agree with or disagree with, and what you guys think about the ratings, who stood out, if anyone, or you guys should Saka be dropped? Because are we concerned by what we're seeing from him at the moment? You guys let me know. Okay, so this has been CJ from the Gunners Corner with the post-game player ratings and player focus, and we'll be back to give you more content throughout the week during the break. All right, so we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, y'all. Love. Bye-bye.